WDDH Radio. This is Orion, aka Brass Balls, for another Sunday sermon. I am your Reverend Master of Ceremonies, and I got another guest with me. None other than the legendary DJ Efn. What's up, homie?
So appreciate that, homie. What's going on?
Yo, man, thank you for doing this, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Sorry that it was some loopholes in it, but life is crazy nowadays.
It is for all of us. You busy, man. You're doing big things, and you're a father now.
Yeah, so that's really the most important thing on my plate right now.
Yeah, and I could definitely relate, man. I could definitely relate to that. So, like I was telling you about this show, man. This is a show where I dive into the South Florida scene. Something that you were a big player in helping cultivate and still are. That first track, I wanted to start with that joint because that's what introduced me to Crazyhood.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
That joint is what introduced me to Crazyhood, EFN, all that. I was a little late because that was on like mixtape volume 17 or whatever. Right. But yeah, man, that joint was like set off that mixtape, and I was just like, yo, who are these cats, man? This is fucking dope. And the whole thing with it. Was that joint called Stand Clear? Or
Sleepers, I believe, if I'm not wrong. I believe.
And then, like, you guys had, like, vinyl you put out prior to that for the FOT. And you guys kind of mentioned FOT on that.
Yeah. Fake Out of Towners, FOTs is this whole thing that we, a term and a movement we were trying to create. And we had that was the first vinyl that we put out as the Alliance. And the first vinyl we put out from Crazyhood. Yeah. And then we did part 2 later on that had Dynass and Scam and a bunch of people, that was a legendary track.
And part 2 was on the album.
On the album, yeah. We put out vinyl for that as well. Yep.
Yeah. Talk about that. Like, where did that come from? Fake Out of Towners. What was it? Because there's a lot of like angst and anger in there. I could tell.
For sure, and even with these, like, so Sleepers represents like a series of freestyles that we would do on every mixtape that I released. I took a page out of the book of like cats like Doo-Wop and Tony Touch and these guys that would have like these original intros to their mixtapes. And of course I always wanted to rep for the camp, and of course I always wanted to put on for the city. And the whole thing was we were always fighting against the system and being more hip-hop, the system of hip-hop. And that Miami wasn't respected nationally. New York was really the big dog in it. They thought we were just, Southern Bamas. And even within our own city, hip-hop wasn't respected. Like, it was like bass and maybe like other forms, like the more gangster side of rap music was more respected. Hip-hop was looked at as this New York phenomenon. So like lyrics and beats wasn't respected. So we're like fighting all these different entities, but repping Miami. So that's where like the term sleepers, like y'all sleeping on us, like we gonna come. And, we're fighting with, like I said, within our own city, people hating on us. And even, like, hip-hop heads within our own city. Because a lot of the people that were running hip-hop in Miami at the time were, like, New York transplants. That if it wasn't from New York or didn't rep New York, it wasn't hip-hop to them either. Yeah. So it was just so many things we were fighting. So that's why you hear us, like, we're fighting that. Like, fuck all y'all, Right.
As a MC myself, it's like, I could attest to, like, oh, you sound way too New York, bro.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm born and raised in Hialeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I would have that, you're one of those bomb-atomically rappers, huh?
Right.
That whole stigma that would be placed, especially if you were coming from here. Yo, what's the origins of you as a DJ and putting out these mixtapes and everything?
As soon as I was a young kid just listening to rap, and before I even knew about the culture, I always gravitated towards a DJ. Whenever I saw the DJ, whether it be like in a music video or on stage, and I was just like, man, like that's the dude right there. Like, and then when I was young and I would go like out here in Kendall, we would go to Hot Wheels and stuff to the skating ring, and seeing the DJ spin, or if I went to a party and saw it, like just the way that the DJ controlled the vibe. I was like, that's the dude right there. Like, fuck anything else. So I wanted to be a DJ. I just couldn't afford the turntables. Fast forward, graduate high school, start Crazyhood. Even before I have turntables, before I'm DJ EFN, when I finally get turntables, I'm looking at the landscape of like, where do I fit in as a DJ in the scene? And I got DJ Craze right in my backyard here in Kendall, who's fucking killing it. World domination. He's a world-renowned turntablist. You got DJ Efn, who's doing the clubs and the parties, and he's killing it. Khaled hadn't really arrived yet at that moment, but you had cats that were like, radio wasn't really big in hip-hop, but you had like pirate radio and college radio that were doing their thing.
91.7 Hoodstock radio, 96.1 FM at that time.
Nobody was really doing the mixtapes heavy because we were all just, we were living off of these New York mixtapes that were coming in. You know, the doo-wops, Tony Touches, SNS, Clue, whatever. And I'm like, man, that's the lane, because we love these mixtapes, but these mixtapes don't rep Miami. Like I wanna do the same quality, the same consistency, and I saw that lane open for myself, and that's what made me say, okay, let me jump into this lane, and I'm gonna take this over, you know, because nobody's really doing it.
Yeah, well, even getting your hands on a Tony Touch mixtape, like the 50 MCs, you had to know the spots. Right. Like, you couldn't just go to Specs and get that.
No.
You had to go know either. I remember The Point.
Well, Mark Furman, this dude Mark Furman, who had Hip Hop Connection, he sold mixtapes like a drug dealer. You know, he had the beeper joint. You text him, he'd meet you like he had like roots, because he lived like in North Miami, so he would like go down and he'd meet people at the mall or somewhere, like in Dayland if he was in Kendall, or Cutler Ridge Mall if he was down south, and then you'd link up with him. He had like the little case, he'd open it up, you're like looking around, mad shady, you gave him the money, he had like a menu, you pick what you want, and boom, and he sold you the tapes.
I remember I had a Hip Hop Connection beat tape. So it had like mad instrumentals, like DJ Premier instrumentals. It had Mike Rippa instrumentals for Stance of Darkness, and that was my joint that I would play to the tape pop. But
and just some of these freestyles, we were dissing Hip Hop Connection, and I'm cool with dude Mark Furman, which unfortunately has the same name as the Rodney King cop. The terrible name. I didn't pick up on that. Terrible name. Poor guy. I feel bad for him. Back then, I had beef with him because he was in, like I explained, like even the local scene was just fixated on New York. He was one of these cats that he, I was always trying to get on his, like have him distribute my mixtapes, and he wasn't with it. He didn't really see value in distributing local. He had like his homies that he would distribute, but he wasn't really putting on too many local cats. So a couple of these freestyles on my tapes just went right at him.
So that explains the anger and the...
oh, man, always, yeah. And then being Kendall cats, like nobody was fucking with Kendall cats. We was always fighting for our respect.
Wow, man. Yo, Crazy Goods. Because that was a store that you had... Like, not only do you have like this DJ aspect to you, but there's an entrepreneur that you've always had about you. Like, I remember having, when you had your van wrapped with the Alliance.
Yeah, Who's Crazy on the back,
Yeah, so talk about Crazy Goods and how that come about.
Another opening in a lane that I thought, all of it was to help cultivate the local scene. That was the initial mission statement for Crazy Hood. It was like, let's really help this local Miami scene, grow any way that we can. And then Crazy Goods, we're looking around and there wasn't too many hip hop stores. And the ones that were around, they were like hip hop / head shops. And I didn't. My peoples were smoked, and I might have smoked around that time period, but I wasn't heavy into that world, and I just didn't see those two things to be like the
synonymous
same.
With
and so I was like, man, if I'm a mother and I want to put my kid and he's into hip hop and I want to take him to a store and there's a bong and all that, that's kind of whack, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I wanted a store that was purely hip hop, had nothing to do, and it also attracted a weird element when the head shops always had like some gang dudes there, some shady ass dudes.
Yeah.
So me and my boy Eddie Giggs, it was both of our ideas, and I remember we just said, yeah, let's try to do this, and we scraped up some funds, and we found a spot, which was Bird Road and 137th Avenue, and we opened up Crazy Goods, man, and that was, it had hip-hop clothing, we had markers, spray tipped, cans, we had, black books, mixtapes, vinyl, we had a record pool out of there, all of that.
Wow, all right, so... You mentioned showing love to the local scene. I'm going to go back to that same mixtape. That same mixtape that we started off with, because there's a joint on there. And what I loved about your mixtapes, because I've gone back to hear like the ones I wasn't able to get, because you put them all up on Mixcloud. So I was able to go back. What I loved about your mixtapes is that you blended a lot of like West Coast music, East Coast music, and then some of the stuff that was bubbling down here.
Right.
That even if it was underground or whether it was like finally hitting the radio. But this joint right here, bro. This joint is the classic. This is the one.
Let loose, the dogs are war. Young love the hardcore. Plots for